It's my pleasure to welcome Chandrika Tandon. She's a woman entrepreneur with a checkered past. She started at McKinsey and then moved on to start her own business, Tandon Capital Associates, way back in 1992. And having made a full circle of professional accomplishments, she is now a nominee for the Grammy Awards in 2011. It's truly a pleasure to welcome you.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here.
Before I talk about the Grammy nominee, which itself I think is incredible for all Indians here, I want to take you back to your career as a woman professional starting in McKinsey. If I were to ask even today, graduates who are coming out of Ivy Leagues, McKinsey is still the top priority. Once you work at McKinsey, then you don't have to look for work for another day of your life.
That's true.
How did that help you in being who you are now? Because that is, in the initial steps you have taken, it's a boot camp, I think, for most people.
Right. Well, I was very lucky to even get into McKinsey because at the time I got into McKinsey, I didn't have an American education. I came straight from IIM Ahmedabad and a couple of years at Citibank, which was unheard of that McKinsey would even hire somebody without an American degree. And then I was one of their first women partners. So in a sense, McKinsey had already helped me develop myself. You know, I learned how to speak. I learned how to speak American to some degree. I learned how to dress, wear business suits, because I was hired by McKinsey wearing a bright yellow sari. And so the McKinsey of those days was a very different McKinsey than it's today. And then we just, once you've been through that kind of grooming and that kind of intensity with some of the most brilliant minds on the planet, I think, because everybody in my class of McKinsey was a Baker Scholar at Harvard, or that incredibly accomplished people. No IITians in that group, I might add. You simply walk in with a great understanding and a great appreciation for people and how they make change happen in institutions as much as the strategic issues of the institution. So it really broadens your perspective.
Moving on to your entrepreneurial career, it's almost been 20 years since you started this. So I look at women entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley, that's where I come from, and there's no dearth of them because the ecosystem exists. But here, it's a different environment, especially in the finance side. It must have been very difficult, and you probably are a role model for many other aspiring women entrepreneurs. So if you can share a bit about your entrepreneurial journey.
I think it's a very scary exercise to be an entrepreneur when you have a very successful corporate career. And I think a lot of what I wish I had at that time, which would have really made the process less scary, was of some sort of safety net. Because I had, when I started my company, I had literally put every last dollar. In fact, I remember we had about 8 months with no business, and then I said to myself, okay, we have 1 month, and our cash flow was running down, and we had literally about 25 days to go, and if then I would have had to shut the company down. Fortunately, 15 days into it, we got a major deal, and then our company was launched. So I think, and for women especially, who are, I think without being too overly general, I would say the emotional content of the being is much stronger. You tend to personalize a lot of rejection, and you tend to take, more of the ups and downs. And I think having mentors, having guides, having a support structure, knowing what I know now, I would have built a better one. And definitely I've done a lot to support a lot of people in this. In fact, we created at NYU a venture fund for women entrepreneurs, for women that want to return to work after many years. Because when people go off the mommy track, they may not want to go back into Goldman Sachs, or they may not want to go back into Google or whatever. They might want to start a company. So we wanted to encourage them to do that.
That leads to my next question. You're also on the board of NYU Stern School of Business and many other boards. So you're now not a role model, but also a mentor to many aspiring entrepreneurs. When you talk about emerging entrepreneurs, especially women, what do you think they have that you didn't, if you look back at your early years?
Well, the whole generation now, and it really, in Winnie the Pooh, do you know Winnie the Pooh? There's a saying that Christopher Robin says, you're braver than you believe, you're stronger than you seem, and you're wiser than you think, something like that. They are amazing. I mean, and every time you look at the the kids, and I don't mean kids because I really feel like an old person compared to them, but the people in their 30s and even in their 40s, you just find they are so full of confidence, and it's confidence with compassion. And so a lot of the, I think many of us were much more single-minded. Our trajectory was very much more around building our companies. But the younger generation is really much more broad-based in their thinking. And they have approached the world with a different level of confidence, and also I think the support structures that exist now. I mean, we didn't speak about women entrepreneurship. We didn't even speak about entrepreneurship 20 years ago. But yet now, in different schools, we have big entrepreneurship areas that have all emerged, which didn't used to exist. So it's become a topic which didn't used to be.
I'd like to bring in IIT in our discussion now, since we are at the IIT conference. You're not an IIT alumnus, but your husband is.
Yes.
So I'm trying to understand from your perspective, not just as a spouse of an IIT alumnus, but also a very competent and successful entrepreneur from IIM. How is the relationship intellectually stimulating and challenging at the same time? How do you look at the relationship as a spouse of an IIT alumnus?
Well, he's great. I mean, he's terrific. He represents all the best ideals and the best characteristics of IIT. He's smart. He's hopefully humorous, and is very gregarious and loves people. And I think the other connection to IIT that I have is that in my class of I'm an IIM Ahmedabad alumnus, and 98% of my class were all IIT graduates. So many of those guys, who by the way would have been somewhat close to my husband's age, maybe a couple of years apart, many of those guys still continue to be great friends. So I have my own IIMA network, which consists largely of IIT folks. So we enjoy each other's wisdom, and I enjoy the humor, and I enjoy the brilliance. But I will say, what I'm excited about watching today and what's happening with the IIT group is being involved in some of the other universities like Harvard, Yale, and NYU. You just see how powerful the alumni network can be, where the collective power of many is so much bigger than the power of one. And the IITs, and it's always been my observation over the years, is that are really just beginning this path of bringing and harnessing this unbelievable brain power that exists in America together. So I have great hopes, and I think 5 years from now, if we were sitting together, this is going to be an amazingly different conference.
Let's talk about your passion, which is probably more dearer to you than all your professional achievements as your career in music. That tells a lot about that as a professional entrepreneur, you still pursue, in spite of all the engagements that you had, the passion for music, and that you didn't let it go. So if you can help us share your passion and the pursuit which led you to the nomination for the Grammy Awards this year.
Well, I realized, a few years ago, maybe 8 or 9 years ago, it was almost like an epiphany, because I'd worked so hard and I'd strived so intensively for success, but I had to really think about what the happiest moments of my life were tied into. And as I thought about it, I realized that the happiest moments in my life were tied to music in some way. So that began a whole quest for simply learning music and to really connect with music. And living in America and living with the kind of schedule that I live with, it was nearly impossible to find a teacher. So I became, for want of a better term, I want to call myself a music beggar. I would literally go to every great master, because I applied the same excellence one is taught at McKinsey and all the work to find a great teacher. And so I would literally go and talk to different teachers and beg them to teach me on my schedules. And the masters are so used to having people come when they're 3 and take over their lives, and that wasn't me. But somehow it worked, and over the last 8 or 9 years, it's been catch as catch can. Whenever I could, however I could, I would go travel to India and I started to learn music. Then I produced one CD for my father-in-law's, my IIT husband's father's 90th birthday. Because what do you give somebody who has everything? I said, let me give him a CD. So I taped just casually Om Namah Shivaya, which is the chant, and I gave it to him as a gift. And that just developed a commercial following, that developed a huge following, and then I did the next CD. And the next thing I know, I was nominated for a Grammy. And I have a huge, our Facebook fans, several, tens of thousands of people, but people write such intensively passionate males about it, about what the music has done for them. So I guess it must be reaching people and letting them find their own grace.
Chandrika, thank you for the inspiration, the empowerment, and above all, the happiness you're sharing with everybody.
Thank you so much. I think there's more to life than one dimension. So I'd like to leave you with that thought.
Thank you.
Thank you.